Hello and welcome to the August 14th edition of the DRF Players Podcast. This is Mike Hogan, alone in studio, but I've got two special guests joining me via Skype. From Saratoga, we've got Mr. Scott Carson and we've got Chris Larmey. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning from the spa.
Yes. From the spa. Yes, I tweeted out a little joke. Pete has had some internet issues at his little home in Saratoga, so he hasn't been able to join. I joked that he got sucker punched by Matt Bernier, but that's not true.
No, we saw him last night. We had dinner with him last night. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
No, that I think
that's a rumor.
Right. Sucker punching in work environments only happens if you're in the Jets locker room.
If you're on a Jets locker room, exactly.
Yeah. According to Pete, the vegetable risotto at Max London's is not that great.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks.
But we're happy to report that every other dish there is really great.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, that's good.
We know how to handicap a menu. We know how to handicap a menu.
Well, maybe the risotto will be better next out.
Yeah, right. It needed one.
It definitely needed one.
They've got it sitting back in the kitchen, just waiting for the next customer. Yes.
All right, gentlemen, we got some really good stakes races to cover. We got 3 at Arlington. We got 1 at Saratoga. They're fantastic turf-graded stakes. These are the kinds of races I love because it seems like you almost always get a good price, and there's always a lot of different ways you can go. We're starting with race 7 at Arlington. It's the Grade 3 American St. Leger. It's a mile and 11/16, quite the marathon. And your 3-1 morning line favorite, the Pizza Man, is the defending champion, but all word points to him scratching from there and going into the Arlington Million, which just makes this one a completely wide open race, I think. And you guys are the special guests, so I'll throw it to you to start, and you two decide which one of you wants to go first, and I'll just leave it to whoever has the strongest opinion.
Okay, Scott always has a stronger opinion, but I'll start for this one. First of all, I just love the distance, 1 mile and 11/16.
Yes.
I'm not sure there's another race at this distance in America, so this could be really unique.
No,
And,
a half a furlong shorter than 1 3/4 miles.
Yeah, so Pizza Man was probably the best horse at this distance on the planet, but he's not running, so I had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the longer the race on a turf, the more I like any European shippers because they're just bred to run long on the turf. So I usually start by looking at the Europeans that are in here, and I really didn't have to go very far. I landed right on the first one, Panama Hat. I like the name and I like the horse. He draws the rail. He's bred to run all day. He's really got some nice recent form. Looks like he's ready to run a good race. He should be able to save ground early. And, you know, when they get to that 11/16 of the mile and 11/16, that final 16th of a mile, I think he'll have what it takes to win the race. And he's 8-1 in the morning line. So I like that.
Is there a song named after him? Panama Hat. Panama Hat.
I think we had a Panama Hat in here, but it's gone now.
Okay.
We could have put that on. That would have worked.
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna second Chris's opinion on Panama Hat. I think that horse has a really great shot, but I didn't put him on top because for 2 reasons. One, who is this trainer? I know he trains for Team Valor International, Andrew Oliver. You know, when I have a shipper from overseas, I want a trainer that either has never done it before or has done it and actually won. And he's only had 1 horse over here in like last 5 years, and it didn't run very well. It wasn't high odds, but you know, it's kind of like shipping in the U.S. You know, some California trainers cannot ship out of California. Mm-hmm. So to me, my hesitation is, who is this guy? Has he ever had any success shipping to the U.S.? So far, no. I mean, it's a small sample. It's a 1. But
That's a really small sample.
It doesn't get any smaller.
Yeah.
I'm going to put him in second, but sometimes these guys don't know how to ship. They don't know how to coddle their horse on the plane. It's he's got a shot at 10-1, and I'll absolutely use him in the pick 4. But instead, I'm going to use Chris's second horse, which is Calvados. And the reason why I'm going to use that horse is because he had a lot of trouble in his last race. And
a lot of trouble, and it cost me money and a contest. I lost by 10 cents at Surfside. If this horse gets up, I win. That was painful. And he was much the best. He had a horrific trip.
Right. So Chris just talked himself into changing his pick to Calvados because he said the Pizza Man was the best horse on the planet at this distance. But if Calvados hadn't had that trouble, he was going to beat the Pizza Man
he was.
in that last race.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, no, definitely Calvados is a live horse in here too.
And his breeding, you want stout breeding, right? Yeah. I've never even heard of this sire, Snipe Walk.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a son of Nureyev, and his average winning distance is like 10 furlongs or maybe even higher.
I think he's bred for 1 mile and 11/16. That's what I think you're saying.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So to me, that's the horse. After watching his last race, hopefully Lescano won't lose too much ground, but at the same time, he won't be completely stuck on the rail and unable to get out.
Yes, please. If I'm playing him, please get a better trip. Yeah.
All right, well, I like it. Calvados, I don't know how you pronounce it. He's one that I've actually picked on the podcast before. He's a 7-year-old. He hasn't won in North America. I don't know when. I've got the old paper version of the DRF in front of me. Of course, I did all my handicapping on Formulator, but I didn't print out the full lifetime PPs. I don't even see his last win. So I'm not sure when that came. And he's one.
So that's not a ringing endorsement.
I think that was I think that was in 2009 in Argentina.
Yeah, so he's one. I've actually picked him because of the same reason, where he's found trouble. He's run really well, but he hasn't run well enough to win. Sometimes horses like this just seem to find trouble. And I'm afraid at 8-1, it might even get bet down lower than that with the Pizza Man scratched. He's one I'm, sure he can win. I don't know if I want to lean on him. I like your idea on Panama Hat, but again, some trainers do better shipping, like Scott said, than others. The other European who's run once here, Lucky Speed, the number 3, is going to be 5-1. I think now might scratch into morning line second choice, with Hyper being the morning line favorite if Pizza Man doesn't go. The trainer Peter Sheargen is only, I think, 1 for 11. This is off memory because I don't have the stats in front of me, and his one win was a maiden special weight in North America.
That trainer is 0 for 2 in North America, and I think you're thinking of Dermot Weld, who might only be like 1 for his last 11 in the last 5 years.
Could be.
Who's the trainer of Carla Bianca in the next race?
Gotcha. So those are ones at shorter prices. It would be hard for me to lean on. I'm going to take a little bit of a shot here with a horse that I've liked for a little while. He was looking like he would be a good stakes horse last year. Then maybe didn't quite put it all together. He's starting to improve. His last race at Churchill was really good. It came back a little bit live. I'm talking about number 11 Highball. I'm hoping as a 4-year-old he's starting to round into form. I'm hoping just his running style. He's one that seems like he could run all day, even though he's never gone this far. I don't know if I'll get 15-1, especially with the scratch of Pizza Man, but I think he might get a little overlooked here for trainer Wayne Catalano, and maybe could make some noise late.
I like that. I like that pick, and I think I'm going to have him in third myself after Calvados and Panama Hat.
Yeah,
So,
I
Nice.
like him. He was the other horse I'm considering. I mean, it always depends on the odds for me, but
Yeah.
if I was going to rank him, I'd put him just behind Calvados, and certainly wouldn't shock me at all. And he should be a good price. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk anybody out of that horse.
on PH
Yeah.
right now, he is 22 to 1.
Oh, perfect. I'll
Calvados
take
is
it.
11 to 1, and Panama Hat is 10 to 1.
Perfect.
So-
I'll take
Good
it.
try right there.
There you go.
can just go home.
Box the
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Box the try.
Box
I
it,
think
box it for $5, and and treat yourself to something nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the race sets up real well for him too, because I think there's a lot of early speed in this race. I don't know if it's going to play out that way at a mile and 11/16, but I think Roman Approval has speed. This AZ Ridge is going to go, and I
There's
think
tons of speed.
yeah. So
But
I think it's
you never know. At a mile and 11/16, you never know what these jockeys will do.
Yeah.
But you would think on paper there should be an honest pace.
You know what?
Right.
Actually, I just remembered that I'm going to have AZ Ridge. It's either AZ or As Ridge.
As Ridge.
But, I'm going to have him in third because he's got really good numbers, and he has a big win at a mile and 7/8 at Turf Paradise, which I know is it's a nutty course.
A big win, Scott.
The handicap probably.
Yeah.
That's the big race they run at the end of the year there.
Scott, I have to interject. A big win at odds of 1 to 20.
Was it 1 to 20?
1 to 20
was...
against. No, yeah, he was 5 cents on the dollar against 5 other horses.
Don't play the stock market. Play As Ridge or AZ Ridge. Next time they run that race, and you're going to make 5% in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
or maybe it's 3 minutes.
Well, it was 3 minutes and 12 seconds and 3/5.
But he's definitely a horse you could throw in as a bomb in like a superfecta or something.
Sure. I mean, he's going to be overlooked.
Yeah.
20 to 1.
He's a galloper. I mean, he's if you look at his buyers, they compare to all the horses in here.
Oh, sure.
Granted, it's been against weak competition, but at 20 to 1, you might want to include.
And he's in great form. 4 for 6 this year. Last race he missed by a nose. He's one that seems like he just he's only once gone that far, and that was in the Hasta La Vista handicap. But
the Hasta La Vista, last race of the meet.
That's right.
Turf Paradise.
But yeah, I mean, look, this is one where I'm more than happy to take a stand against the short-priced favorites, who's likely, I'm assuming, going to be hyper, and I think Crucero might take some money off of that win last out, but nothing against that horse. He's been a fantastic claim for Keith DeSormo and Big Chief Racing. I mean, they claimed him out of a $50,000 maiden claimer and turned him into Grade 3 winner, but he's just one I would want to have prove it to me off the ship and, at a short price.
Yeah, especially given the distance with American horses. Yeah, I think this is one you go for the prices, and there's some live horses at a price, I think.
Yeah, and he's carrying 123, which isn't that much weight, but giving 4 pounds at a mile and 3/4, I think that's kind of significant.
Yeah. I like it. All right, well, let's move on we'll skip the 8th race. Though it's an interesting running of the Grade 1 Secretariat, it's only a 7-horse field, which is why I'm guessing it was not used for public handicapper purposes. So we'll go to the 9th. It's the Grade 1 Beverly D. It's a mile and 3/16 for 3-year-old and older fillies and mares. $700,000 purse. Chris, you started last time, so Scott will give you the honors with this one. Where did you land in the Beverly D?
The morning line seems a little high to me, but I think this is the coming out party for What's the Chances. Chad Brown does amazing things with these older horses.
Yeah.
He did it with Slumber a couple months ago. He did it with Big Blue Kitten last race, even though it was the second time Big Blue Kitten had won that United Nations. I think What's the Chances is in pretty much the best form of her career right now. And but she comes off a second, at Woodbine, which it doesn't look that amazing in the PPs. She was an even money favorite, and she lost by a head, but she lost to a horse that day I loved, Strut the Course, the stars were aligned for that horse to run the best race of its life. And it did, and what's the chances? Only lost by a head. I'm closed from all the way back.
Yeah.
And, you know, she won the Gallery this year, which she didn't win last year. And, you know, last year she only had, she didn't have any wins last year, in fact. But this year she opened with a win in the Gallery, and then she just lost, you know, she just lost by a head, which was a reaction. You know, it wasn't as strong of a race for her. That's okay. I think she's wound up and ready to run the race of her life. And 10-1 on this horse. I mean, I guess we got 15-1 on her once last year. The 10-1 on this horse, that to me, speed figure wise, is as fast or faster than any other horse from the 2-hole. It's, you know, it's kind of a slam dunk for me.
I'm up.
Yeah, go for it.
I like that horse. I can't argue with that. Chad Brown, he's the best turf trainer there is. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's other good turf trainers, but I think he's risen to the top of the heap. And that horse, if you get 10-1, I can't believe a Chad Brown horse is going to go off at 10-1 at Arlington Park, but maybe.
There's a lot of horses.
If it does, you have to play it. But the horse, I always go for the Euros when I can. If I can get a price on a good Euro horse in these races, I'll go for it. And Carla Bianca, is that it? Carla Bianca?
Carla Bianca.
Yeah, like Scott said, Vermont Weld hasn't won a race in the U.S.
Not recently. But he
I know he's won races, and he's won races at Arlington Park on Arlington Million Day.
Yeah, I mean, no, he's just
so he knows how to do it, and this horse has really gotten good. Like, I mean, they just stepped it up into. I mean, its first graded race was its last out, I think, if I remember right. Looked it up.
No, actually. Let's see. I'm looking here.
First graded stakes win.
It's first graded, yeah.
One at the Curragh in August of last year.
Yeah, it's been in three graded stakes. It's 1, 2, and finished second. And you know that's in Ireland. And so to me, you know, this field, if you can win if you're a really solid Grade 3 horse in Ireland, you can certainly win this race. I think it's a Grade 1 in the U.S., but you know, those European horses are tough. So I'm not sure the 8-1 morning line, if that holds up. I think that horse looks solid. But I like Scott's choice, too. Those are the two horses I was considering playing in this race, depending on the odds. Nice.
Well, I also went with a European, and you know, I don't love the morning line. I'm hoping it floats up a little bit. Euro Charlene, I think, is the horse to beat. But I'm taking this year's Euro Charlene, who is number 9 Wedding Vow. The only 3-year-old in the race, so she gets weight from the rest of the field. She's improving. She finished ahead of Carla Bianca a few races back when she finished second in the, what was that? That was in the Memorial Stakes at Gowran Park in Ireland. She's one that just seems to be improving, and as a 3-year-old who gets weight, for one of the, you say Chad Brown's probably the best turf trainer in North America. I wouldn't disagree. I would say perhaps the best turf trainer in all of the world is Aidan O'Brien. And if he thinks enough to send this one over here, I think she's got to have a huge shot. I wouldn't want any lower than the 4-1 that I'm getting, but I think that's a fair price here, and hopefully she drifts up.
Well, yeah, she just ran second in a Grade 1 race. It's weird, O'Brien, you think of, you know, these Euro turf trainers as spacing out their races, but he does this all the time. He'll wheel a horse back that ran in Europe, and he'll ship it over here in a week later and run in the U.S., and they often run well. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see that horse win. I'd like a little better price maybe, but you're getting the Lasix too. He used to not give his horses Lasix, and now he does. So
and it's
there's
for
a lot
Coolmore.
to like about that horse.
Right, Coolmore is the owner, so I wonder if the fact that she's getting Lasix signifies that she might end up staying over here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that she stays in the barn. Maybe Chad Brown will get another graded stakes horse.
Right,
just what he needs.
All right, but I do also I think I was going to try and make a case for what's the chances. I'll probably end up picking her second, and depending upon the odds, I was a little dubious about that 10-1. I thought it might come down, but I think 7 or 8-1 is a fair price on her.
Yeah,
I
think 8-1 is probably about right. I should also put in a couple of mentions. I mean, this is a phenomenal field.
Yes.
And I think I have Carla Bianca either in second or third, but I think Euro Charlene is like probably the most likely winner.
Right.
And I think Secret Gesture also is going to run huge. She ran huge in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf last year, and she's had 2 preps for this. And the trainer, even though that trainer didn't win with her, she ran a big number. I mean, I think that particular race, Stephanie's Kitten, Day at the Spa, that was just a scintillating race as I recall watching it.
Right.
So coming out of that, I think Secret Gesture is also a major threat, and all the horses that I just mentioned, I will be using in the pick 4.
All right. Well, then I get to pick another horse too.
Okay.
Because
do it.
I like the Euro horses. Well, to me, the one horse is your live bomb in this race.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I like about it is these German horses have done pretty well in the Arlington Million Day here in recent years. I don't know anything about this trainer, but the horse
Waldemar Hickst.
Yeah, Aldemar Hickst. But my wife was born in Germany, so I got to favor these German horses. And this horse was very consistent until its last race. It kind of threw a clunker when they shipped it to France, and it didn't run well, but it gets LASIK, so maybe it bled or something in that race. And its other races would fit, and it draws the rails. So, 20-1, to me, that's a must-use in exotic plays because it just fits. If it runs back to any of those prior races, I think it could definitely hit the board.
I like it.
How is Waldemar Hickst off a 90-day layoff?
I don't think we'll have a big sample size on that one.
well, I do
DRF,
see. I was going to say, I do see in my paper form he's 0 for 4 in North America this year. So he's at least had some runners in the database. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look it up. Okay.
I think that I looked that up as well in Formulator, and I think it was that he, he's always brought long shots in. So it's not like he's lost with 3-1 horses. They kind of figure not to win.
Yeah.
And maybe this one is the same,
but I just looked it up in Formulator to give Formulator a plug. And he actually had a 3rd place finish in a stakes race at Woodbine. So
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. So
what were the odds on that
horse? 16-1.
16-1.
Nice.
So
maybe
consider putting that one in your super.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe must include underneath. And we haven't mentioned, aside from just briefly, we haven't mentioned the fact that Stephanie's Kitten is in this field and is your 7-2 morning line. What was that? Second choice.
She is the horse I love to bet against this year.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, she's a fantastic 6-year-old mare. She's won over $2.7 million. I'm not sure she's the same mare that we saw last year. And at a short price, I'm happy to bet against her. And look, in her last 2 races, she got beaten by 6 different horses. And
by her stablemate Rabbit.
Right. Well, that too, both times.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. Go ahead.
And you have Chad Brown, the trainer, Irad Ortiz, the rider. I mean, you can't have better trainers than riders. So if she hasn't been getting it done recently, you got to think maybe she's just ready to go to the breeding shed. Now, she might fool us here, but I'll bet against her.
And she's still getting bet. She's been favored her last 3 races.
Especially when they had the Rabbit for her and she still couldn't get it done. I mean, I do think that there will still be some pace in this race. Luch Racing looks like they made on a mission specifically to run in this race, or at least to run some turf route graded stakes race, and she's got some early speed, and who knows. But if she's anything like that 7-2, I think she's a complete bet against.
Who else does Luch own?
Oh, they own War Story. They own. They own.
But I mean,
they don't have anyone in this race. No.
Okay, so Made on a Mission is not a rabbit necessarily.
No, but she could get an easy lead. I don't know if she's good enough to win, but I mean, there really isn't a lot of speed in this race, and so, and she clearly is the speed of the race. But you never know in this kind of race what the space is going to be. But it could be easy.
I think Carla Bianco will be forwardly placed, and Lots of Lex seems to usually run towards the front. So I don't know what the pace is going to be like, but I don't know if she's going to be alone on the lead. I don't know. We'll see.
It looks to me. It felt like there's going to be some pace. So Euro Charlene can get out there. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Even the one that ran in the Breeders' Cup, Secret Gesture, is usually relatively forwardly placed. So I don't think anyone's going to get loose.
That's going to be a hell of a race. I can't wait. We'll be at Saratoga during the runnings of these races, and I just hope we remember to go look at a monitor.
Yeah.
Well, we have to set alarms because I don't want to miss these races.
Well, it will be. Let's see. I think that race will be after the 9th, because the next race in post-time order is the 10th at Saratoga. It's the Grade 2 Fourstardave. It's the 31st running of the Fourstardave. $500,000 purse. It's a handicap for 3-year-olds and up, going a flat mile at Saratoga. Chris, let's start with you again. Where did you land in the Fourstardave?
Well, just a side note. Scott and I were here at Saratoga last year for this race. Scott didn't remember this, but we somehow finagled paddock passes, and so I was hanging out in the paddock a lot, and the Fourstardave was being run, and Grand Arch was in there, and he looked great before the race, so I was all over him. And
he ran a hell of a race, too.
He ran a hell of a race. He looked like the winner.
Yeah.
Seek Again was boxed in, looked like hopelessly boxed in, and somehow Rosario popped through along the rail and got up by a nose. And it was just a tough feat, but a really thrilling race. And I think those two horses can run 1-2 again in here. I really do.
Really?
I think Seek Again, I think, is really sitting on a big race. We know he likes the track. I'm afraid he might get bet but he hasn't won, I think, since that day. I'm not sure, but I don't think he's won a race since then.
He has not. He's actually kind of regressed a bit since that race.
But I think he's rounding back into form this year, and I'm guessing they pointed for this race, and I expect him to run well. His rider, Lepero, sometimes gives you a great ride, sometimes makes you want to scream when he rides these horses.
Touch.
Lepero's on Seek Again?
Yes.
So
for the first
that's the
time
thing
in his career.
Scares me.
Yeah.
The first time.
He's like 1 for 180 at Saratoga this year.
Yeah, I was just going to say he's been a touch cold.
Well, but I had him on. I guess it's one win because I had him on. It was a turf sprint, and he won for me. So
I think it was the nightcap one day.
So that makes me a little bit nervous. But he can. I think he fits this horse, and he may need a little bit of luck. But I think the horse is going to run well. I think Grand Arch. He's a good, solid horse. His last race doesn't look that good if you watch it, but he was parked really wide all the way around, and a lot of times horses, they kind of empty out a little bit at the end when they go wide, and the rest of the horses save ground. So I think it was better than it looked. Yeah. And Lynch does well at Saratoga. So to me, those two, I mean, this is a good race. There's a lot of good horses. I think it's another one that's going to be really fun to watch. And I wouldn't talk people out of a half a dozen. Just about anybody in the race you can make a case for. But those two are pretty good prices, and I think it could be a replay of last year. But I've been known to be wrong at times, many times.
It's a fair opinion. It's one I don't agree with, but it's a fair opinion certainly. Maybe Scott, I'll jump in next.
That wasn't bringing endorsement of ever.
All right, now,
was that a backhanded?
Okay, so all right, so let's. I actually now I want to hear Mike's opinion. So I can.
Yeah,
so I can have a witty retort like that.
Okay, perfect. I'll tee it up for you. I'll tee it up for you.
Okay.
I'm with you in the sense here, Chris, that I like Grand Arch. I think his last race you can excuse because aside from being parked wide, he also changed leads late. And once he did, he started rallying, but of course it was then too late and he wasn't going to get to the loose, well, after How Great gave it up, King Crisa essentially got a loose lead. However, I think King Crisa is a much better one-turn grass horse. I think Grand Arch is a much better two-turn grass horse. He gets back to going two turns here when the last race at Belmont was just one. He's going to be a good price. You mentioned Brian Lynch's numbers, both at Saratoga, but just in general at NYRA in turf routes. He's 3 for 11 with a 598 ROI in graded stakes in turf route graded stakes at NYRA the last 5 years. That's horses like 5 Iron and Coffee Click. I think Grand Arch is a great price and absolutely bettable here. I think he's probably going to be every bit of the 10-1, if not even a little bit higher.
Just to add one thing on your stats, he's 4 for 5 in the money in graded stakes turf races at Saratoga. So yeah, he's been his horses are always live.
Right, and I think that race was just a prep. I think they were pointing to this one. I think hopefully he got out of it what he needed and will take a step forward here. There's a couple others, like you said, this is a very wide open race, and for me the big question comes down to what kind of price you're going to get on a lot of these. I was very interested to see that Vijack at 6-1 is a higher morning line than Ironicus at 4-1. Ironicus coming off of only one graded stakes effort where he won very nicely in the Dixie on Preakness Day. And maybe the reason why the morning line is so low on him as the the third choice behind King Crisa and Mishawish is perhaps because he's won, somewhat lightly raced as a 4-year-old. He's only raced 9 times, and maybe he's not been exposed like some of the others have. I think he's probably sitting on a very good race, but I'd probably want a little bit more than the 4-1 of the morning line. And who knows, maybe you get it. If a horse like Seek Again does get bet, if they're on both Mishawish and King Crisa, both of whom I'm against for a number of reasons. King Crisa, I don't know, wants to go 2 turns, and Mishawish.
King Crisa, by the way, took Wise Dan all the way around the Saratoga turf course and only lost by a length and a half or something. So I think he can do 2 turns, but I agree with you. I'm betting against him because I think that last race was just a gigantic peak for him as a 6-year-old to run his best buyer ever. And you look at his workouts since then. I mean, they're really slow. He's recovering. Yes. I think he's out of the money. If he's actually 3-1, then there's a lot of opportunity.
Right. I'm absolutely with you. I think he can. He's a horse that can get 2 turns, but I think he does his best work 1. And at Saratoga, unless they ship him out of town, at Saratoga there are no options. I lost my audio for you guys, so I got to plug you back in. At Saratoga, there are no other options for him to go 1 turn on the turf unless they do 5.5, and I think that's a little sharp for him. So I'm against him even at a flat mile. The turns are what would concern me, and he's going to have a lot of other early pace pressure, especially with a horse like Skyring.
Yeah, I'm hoping Skyring rushes up on the outside and puts some pressure on him and kind of gets him to go a little faster than they want him to early.
I think he absolutely will. From a contest standpoint, the one that I would be interested in taking a shot with is number 6, Grand Tito. He's a horse that just always seems to run a good race. He's very rarely out of the money, especially lately. Gustavo Delgado is a pretty unknown trainer in a lot of circles, but he's a really sharp trainer who can score with a bomb. He just did that earlier this meet with Face of Winter at Saratoga. He's one I wouldn't want to toss at a huge price.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely the kind of the live long shot that you want to include in the race, because you're right, consistent. They just run him in tough spots, but he tends to run well, just like this race. He'll probably run well and maybe run third or fourth, and help fill out a nice trifecta or superfecta.
Right, and if you're a form handicapper or a class handicapper and you're looking at his running lines, you know, you go back to the race in January, the Fort Lauderdale, where he lost to Mishawish by a neck, and you're getting 20-1 on Grand Tito and 7-2 on Mishawish.
Yeah, I had Grand Tito in that race too, so I remember that one. Yeah.
I'm sure you do. I think I had I tossed Mishawish. I had a Grand Tito Fredericksburg exact the box.
Ouch.
Which would have been balloons because I think Fredericksburg was 20-1. So what are you going to do? I didn't key them in the try with the favorite.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. So Chris is on Seek Again. You're on Grand T.
Grand Arch and Seek Again. I'm
right. You're on
those.
On both of them. I'm gonna. I'm in one of these torn positions where I love the visual action of Ironicus, and I know he's going to get bet because people are like, "Oh my God, that horse is unbelievable!" You know, I mean, I know people that are saying they'll bet him at any price in this race, and he was 2-5 in his last race. Right. But I'm like, and so he's a little slower, but he looks like he's sitting on the race of his life. Mm-hmm. You know, that was an optional claimer, and it just set him up just right to just run a monster race today. And I think he's even better at 2 turns, which is he demonstrated at Pimlico by winning the Grade 2 Dixie.
Yep.
And he looked awesome kicking it in down the lane in that race.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with him then, and I think a lot of people did. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's 3-1 or 7-2.
Yeah.
So, you know, I drink that, but that means a lot to me, and the numbers are close enough that I may not be able to help it but pull the trigger on him.
Yeah. It's fair. It's fair. I just fear the time to have him was that race. At 7-1.
Yeah, that was a great time to have him. That was
better than the 2-5.
That was the best time to have him.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. But but if he is 4-1, then he's send it in to me, and then I would back him up with Seek Again and Grand Arch. I agree with you guys on those 2 horses. But I'm sort of the romantic in me wants Ironicus to just blow this field away.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad opinion. Certainly, the concern for me is price. You know, I'm just afraid he might get bet. I got some stats on Shug at Saratoga. He's 6 for 28 with 7 others in the money. It's a 337 ROI in graded stakes at Saratoga last 5 years. And he's 4 for 11 with a 733 ROI with last out winners in graded stakes at Saratoga.
And you know they were pointing him to this race. They ran him an allowance race. And I'm sure that was just to get a race in him between that Pimlico race and this one. So
there's a story there. I have a story. I didn't read up recently, but I remember after the Dixie, they entered him in a graded stakes race at Belmont. And they had to scratch him because he spiked a fever. So then they gave him a little time, and they put him in the allowance because he still had conditions. So that was really just he missed some training. They wanted to get a race into him. But yeah,
they wanted him ready for this race.
They wanted him ready for Saratoga. So,
but that's just before we leave this race, though, we haven't mentioned it, but I mean. This is a really nice field. I mean,
it is.
The Pletcher horse is I don't know if he'll fire off the bench, but that horse is going to win some good races this year. Mm-hmm. You know, Vijack's really taken to the turf. Jack Milton.
He's become a new horse? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and he gets weight. That's the other thing. If Vijack's 6-1, he's absolutely playable here.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of. This is a really nice field of horses.
You could almost all this race.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Except for King Creesa, which means he's going to win.
Right.
But absolutely. I mean, this is a solid. This is like a Grade 1 race to me. I don't think you're going to see too many turf races with better fields without European shippers coming in than you'll see here. These horses are going to win some other races this year in this field.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, and you could see, some BC mile horses here.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the main event for Saturday. It's the Grade 1 Arlington Million, and I see in my paper here it's the Grade 1 Arlington Million XXXIII. I guess they're going Super Bowl. That's the Arlington Million 33. It's for 3-year-olds and up. Go ahead.
So given that it's the 33rd, we've got to talk about the first Arlington Million, probably one of the best races ever. John Henry won the first Arlington Million, and boy, was that bittersweet for me because I love John Henry, one of my favorite horses of all time, but I played the Bart at 40-1 in that race, and I thought he won the race. They called him as the winner on the television. The announcer called him as the winner. I thought he won. I still think he won the race.
Do they not have exactas then, by the way? They might not have.
I don't know, but that was a tough beat. 40-1. But John Henry, that was a great race. I mean, that was the way to kick off the first Arlington Million. And there's been quite a few good ones.
For that reason alone, I hope Arlington never goes out of business, which I'm afraid it's going to.
Well, I mean, their whole year is wrapped up in one day. This meet. I mean, it's been a tough year for them. But that was a great race. I'll never forget that one. That first Arlington Million. Now we're on to the 33rd, so I'm getting old, obviously. I can remember the first one.
Well, we won't ask you what you thought of Kelso.
That was before my time.
All right, Scott, you want to kick this one off? You have a strong opinion in here. I'll start by giving an overview of the field. We've got 13 runners, assuming they all go, and word is with the Pizza Man going, we're not going to have a scratch of him. It's a fantastic race that I think has actually, for a mile and a quarter, has a fair bit of early speed, including the Rabbit, Shining Copper, who was claimed by the Ramseys for these types of, for essentially being Big Blue Kittens setup. So with that in mind, Scott.
Okay. Well, that's going to play into what I think is going to be my pick. I reserve the right to not enter this on Public Handicapper. I reserve the right to change it on Public Handicapper, but certainly I will have money. I will win something if this horse wins. It's Up with the Birds, and I just he likes to close, and it's interesting. Was he in this race last year? He was in this race last year.
He was in this race last year. Yes. He didn't run as well. It was kind of a bad race for him.
It was a bad race. Yeah. So this horse has always had a ton of talent. And, last year, I'm just looking up his price. He was 6-1. Mm-hmm. He was coming in off a gigantic 4-length win at Woodbine. Right. And that's why he was bet down to 6-1. And that's also why he ran fourth out of the money, because he was reacting to what at that time was a peak race for him.
Zapped him a little.
Now, this year he ran in the Arlington Handicap in his last race and was even money, and didn't run well. He finished third. He was bumped hard. He was wide the whole way. That's okay to me because I don't want the giant race at Woodbine before the Arlington Million. Right. I want a prep like this where he finishes third and has a little bit of trouble. So, I think he's got back numbers enough that he can take this at a big price. And, honestly, I think he might be much higher than 12-1 with this field.
Mm-hmm. And he's a 5-year-old, so he has back numbers. Plus, he has upsides. His third race off the layoff. They've been pointing for this race. Mm-hmm. So I think he is sitting on a big race, and his best race can win this for sure.
And it's Graham Motion now, not Malcolm Pierce.
Right.
Who's, I'm not sure how he's done at Arlington, but, Graham Motion, Chad Brown, Christophe Clement. You
can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong with them.
And he gets the rail. And Drayden Van Dyke, who's an underrated up-and-coming rider, and he saves ground on the turf, and he's not afraid to hit the hole. there's a lot to like about this horse. He's going to be a price.
And interestingly, his first race this year, he was like 8 wide, and he went super wide, so his buyer didn't come up very very high, and he was beaten by Ironicus.
Right.
So it'd be really interesting to see if Ironicus wins the Fourstardave. That you got to up the chances of Up with the Birds in this race.
And that race was off the bench too. I mean, that was his first race back as a 5-year-old, so he certainly wasn't at his best that day.
And that
he
was
had a tough trip.
If you watch that race, I think he may have run better in that race than anybody but Ironicus, by far.
He just had a really tough. Yeah, he had a really tough trip. It was wide. He had some trouble.
Yes.
I mean, he's a good horse, and he's not a horse any people know about because his better races have been up in Canada.
Right.
But when he runs a big race, he's capable of beating this field.
Yes, I agree. I circled him. He's probably the one I'm going to use in public handicapper myself. I think when Graham Motion got him after the Japan Cup, I think they had this race in mind for him. I think that last one was purely a prep, and he ran fine. I mean, you might want to, certainly you always want to win all of them, but I think there's no reason to think he's not going to move forward off of that effort and run a really big one. I think the race sets up well for him. I think there are some of the European horses that have speed in addition to Shining Copper. So I like it, and I love picking another closer in a race where there's a rabbit, because sometimes it actually sets it up for a different horse. Yeah,
the rabbit thing hasn't been working out too well this year.
Yeah,
they're races.
Yeah, but 7 trainers were celebrating when that rabbit got entered.
Well, it did work. Although it did work with the big blue kitten in the last race in the United Nations.
That's true.
So they are 1 for 1 with these two together.
Okay, I don't want to throw cold water on this, but I'm going to anyway. The formulator facts was another formulator plug.
You can't trust that formulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fact. Graham Motion 0 for 12 at Arlington.
Okay.
Including the Arlington handicap with even money Up with the Birds.
Sure.
His horses always get played, and in fact, only one of them went off higher than 10 to 1.
How many hit the board?
So he's actually can I change my pick?
Yeah, sure.
No, sure. I'm a little worried about that. He hasn't had success there.
How many hit the board?
So 3 hit the board, including Up with the Birds. Just one thing on the formulator, I got to throw this out because I'm a math guy. When you have sample sizes of 5, 10, 15, especially if they're negative, you can't put a lot of stock in those. Now, if you have a sample size of 10 and they won 9 out of 10 races, that's meaningful. But when a trainer's like 0 for 10 or something, I mean, that you're going to find good trainers that go 0 for 10 in any given week all the time. So you can't put a lot of stock in those small sample sizes unless it's really something unexpected. Like, they win 9 out of 10 races at that track or, on the turf or something. But be real careful. When you use formulator, it's really powerful. But don't put too much stock into negative statistics with small sample sizes. Not picking on you here, Scott, but I noticed that people have done that I've talked to that use formulator. You got to be real careful when you use it.
So are you saying that the trainer in the 7th that I was worried about that's 0 for 1 in America?
Well, that's different. I think you better lay off that horse because obviously you can't win in America.
By the way, we were talking about this before, and I'm going to bring it up again. They've sent Up with the Birds to Japan, which seems insane because isn't it like a 24-hour plane ride?
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder American horses never.
Have an American horse ever won in Hong Kong or Japan? Have they ever gone to Asia?
Has that ever happened?
Probably, but not that I can think of. Well, so in the Japan Cup, he was 158 to 1. And I guess you could say he outran those odds because he beat 2 horses.
But maybe in yen, that's like 2 to 1. or whatever they use in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Um,
yeah, but there were three horses that were over 300 to 1.
oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Was the
I'm just
field
kidding.
size like 20 horses though?
It
They
was
used to have-
18. He was 16th of
Yeah.
18.
Hey, how come I can't click on the chart and formulator? You guys need to work out a deal with
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for
Yeah,
that.
he might
those
have had trouble
three
in that
races.
race, and we don't know. Yeah.
Those 3 races
He
a
might-
year. Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
we haven't talked about anybody else in this race. 'Cause there are some other good horses. in
Yeah, so
there.
we
Yeah,
are all three
well,
of us have officially
okay,
picked up with the birds.
Okay,
Which is,
Chris, try and make a
Shit.
case for the Euros in this one because I'm not sure you can. At least this one seems like the Euros are more vulnerable than the other races to me.
All right. Well, let me pull up the formulator. Hold on one second. I'm kind of going with the German horse again.
Okay.
Remember I was telling.
Yeah.
They have the Wake Forest.
Wake Forest,
Not really
sure.
not a German name, but
No.
to me, he's a lot like the other German horse. He's been running in cut below recently in Germany and Italy, but he's coming off a win in a Grade 3 race in Germany, which I don't really know how that compares with other countries. But
Yeah.
I do know German horses like this have come across and won this race before. And, so to me, he's been running, 1.25 miles is his distance. That's what they run him at every time. And, he has run in France and won a graded race in France, I think, or at least, I think he won a grade. Let me see. Let me look at the form. Maybe he hasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe he was running allowance races in France. But I mean, he won 5 of his 6 first starts. 5 of the 6 first starts of his career he won.
Right.
Then he didn't win for a while, but he came back and won again. So he's back in form, and they're shipping him over. So the Euro horses usually like the distance. He's getting Lasix, which I like. So, to me, he's 12 to 1, I think, on the morning line. He's a live Euro.
and that trainer can ship and win in the U.S. He has one winner who won a maiden at Woodbine.
That's
not even the US.
that's the one I was thinking of. That's the one who won the maiden. And actually, if you look, that horse, he ran the horse in an allowance race before he ran the horse in the maiden race. So
And but that trainer Wohler,
He's
he's
won
a good
before.
trainer.
He's won
He's a
before.
top class, world class
Right.
trainer. So,
right.
that he knows what he's doing.
He's won some big ones that just are more than 5 years old.
So, if I was going with since he's a German horse, he's probably not going to get bet. But I think he's alive. On the foreign horses, that's the one I like.
All right,
Okay, I like it.
I have a foreign runner that I want to turn you on to, and let's see if I can make the case for it.
Okay.
It's the 3 Book Runner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so so Book Runner, he's 15-1, but probably be much higher.
Mm-hmm.
The horse is slower than these,
Mm-hmm.
but his breeding is impeccable. His mother, he's Tisnow, which
Right.
Tisnow can get
He's an American
turf horses.
horse, but has been running overseas.
Yeah, oh, is he bred in the U.S.?
Yeah, he's Kentucky bred. Tisnow over
Okay.
a Chester House mare.
Yeah, okay. And that Chester House mare is Take the Ribbon, who was 4 for 12 and won 370K on the turf.
Mm-hmm.
So the horse clearly has ability. Now, I think that, let's see, they have 2 races. So this trainer, Mikel Del Zangles,
Mm-hmm. Who, if
what
you
has
know,
he done?
well, if you note, he was the trainer of Mishawish before he came over and went into the barn of Todd Pletcher.
Okay, and he also won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf with Flotilla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good
back
trainer.
in 2012. And so, the guy knows how to win. He's at 2 seconds in the U.S. And to me, it just, I was put onto this horse by a guy named Jason Perlmutter, who was here at Saratoga with me last week, and he was spot on with finding long shots that would come in second and third, like 29 to 1 horses. And sometimes he lands on a horse and he just has the right feel. And the more I look at the horse, the more I like it too. I mean, it doesn't look good in its last race, July 5th, but these guys are pointing for this race.
Sure.
It's also what? Okay, its first race is a mile and 3/16. I don't know. It's just something a horse to take another look at, and a European jockey is coming over with it, so they must like the horse.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I actually tried to make a case for him on the stretch out. My concern was more the pace. I'm afraid. It appears to me he tends to be coming off of these straight 1 mile races, stretching out now an extra 2 furlongs. He seems to be one that wants to be forwardly placed, early to lead. It just seems like he's probably going to be on the pace, and I'm afraid he's going to get cooked by that rabbit. But at 15-1 or higher, absolutely could run a huge one and at least hit the board.
See, this is what's good about the podcast, because I didn't notice this. I had not looked at this horse's running style. So you're right, early to lead. But you notice 2 races ago he was to the lead late.
Yes, and he hasn't
always been on the lead. He doesn't have to necessarily have it.
Right.
Yeah,
if you note, that was a turn race. That was a left-handed race. And then his debut on the synthetic at a mile and 3/16 was a right-handed race. All the other ones were straight miles. So
and his debut was his longest distance race, and he came from off the pace. So.
Right.
And actually, if you look at it, his last race he was early to lead, and maybe that was the mistake they made, putting him on the lead, because that was the race. He finished 3rd, and just yesterday at Saratoga, I just missed with a 12-1. Who his 3 bad races were running on the lead, and I was like, I hope they take him off the pace today, and he did. And he lost by a nose, but it was still a great race. So maybe they were just working him in that race.
Could
it
be.
was
Possibly.
And
absolutely.
And if they all know the horse is a rabbit, hopefully the European riders are paying attention. Sometimes those rabbits go out and no one cares, and they're like 20 lengths ahead, and everybody just runs their race, and it doesn't really have much of an impact on things.
Which I think happened last time Shining Copper ran, right?
That doesn't always have that big of an impact on the race.
True.
If they all know it's a rabbit and they don't have any respect for it, it's when they are a little worried the horse might not come back that they get a little antsy and start moving too soon. So, interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, the other Euro that I noted seems to have some speed is the 11 Maverick Wave for John Gosden at 8-1. Straight to lead. We have close up, early to lead, straight to lead, track leaders, straight to lead.
Yeah.
I think he might also be with Shining Copper if they're not able to rate him. Real quick before we move on from this,
could get a good trip.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, he's an interesting one. The stretch out, despite winning the first race, I always look, whether it's right or not, I always look a little dubiously at synthetic winners overseas that then come over to run on turf. He won the 1 mile and 3/16 race he won in his debut was on the synthetic. So we'll see.
I mean, it was a 2-year-old race, so
that's true.
He's clearly faster on turf in general.
And with the Euros, I don't mind them. Actually, I kind of like the ones that stretch out when they come over here.
Yeah.
Sure. A lot of times. Because the pace is so weird. A lot of those European races, they go really slow early on.
Didn't Henry the Navigator go from a mile to a mile and a quarter to win the Breeders' Cup Classic when it was at Santa Anita? Or was that?
We didn't win.
No, there was another horse that did.
Raven's Pass.
Raven's Pass, I think, stretched from.
That was on synthetic.
Yeah, it was on synthetic, but it was on synthetic, but it was a horse that was stretching regardless.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
So the Europeans can, for them, going from a mile to a mile and a quarter is kind of standard procedure. It's not.
Yeah.
I never worry that they can't get the distance.
Yeah. That's true. So one last horse that we'll mention. We've been a lot to talk about in this podcast, but it's been a fantastic one. I really enjoyed having you guys on today, and I would love to do something like this again in the future if we can work it out. But I wanted to mention number 10, Triple Threat for Bill Mott. the other European horse who's actually run once in North America, got up late to win the Monmouth in June. That's the race I tweeted out. I would have loved to see his gallop out, but instead they held the camera on the finish line for 15 seconds to watch the guy walk underneath the rail. And so you don't see the gallop out of that one until they're on the backstretch. But that was a fantastic effort where he got up late, even though he only won by a neck, I think, or a nose. I think he was much the best in that one. I think probably Team Valor sent him over to Bill Mott with this race in mind. I don't see why he couldn't move forward off of that effort. And he's one that had been running in Group 1s and Group 2s overseas in France. At 6-1 or better, he's one I'd be a little interested in as well.
Yeah, I think he looks really interesting, but 6-1. No, this is the kind of horse I want at 20-1. 20-1, I'd be like, I'm putting this guy in the Super. But other than that, I figured when I was looking at the numbers on this horse, I figured he would be 20-1, 15-20-1. I just look at his odds. He's 6-1 morning line and 6-1 PH. So that would be my only knock on him.
Yeah, well, Mott horses tend to take money, so there's that.
Yeah, I think that the only thing I don't like about the horse is the post position. And I at 20-1, I wouldn't worry so much, but 5 or 6-1.
Yeah.
This is I don't know if it really stands out above. I think it's definitely a contender, but I'd probably want a better price on. I'd rather go with. Even we didn't mention the local horse.
Yeah, which
we've got to mention him. The Pizza
Man. Sure.
Yeah, I mean he loves the course.
Right.
I don't know. I think his best race could fit if he gets a trip, and maybe he can deliver for the home crowd. I wouldn't put him out. I don't think it'll be 10-1. He'll probably get overbet because he's a local horse.
Right now he's 7-1 on PH. You'd probably go off to something like 6-1. He's absolutely 100% in my Super. I love the Pizza Man.
Yeah. Oh, 9 for 12.
When he delivers pepperoni, then he's my guy.
Well, and not only that, but we've been up here at Saratoga for a few days. And every time we go out to eat, somebody orders pizza.
Love it. Well, there you go.
Or rabbit. Rabbit.
Or rabbit. 9 for 12 on the Arlington turf course. You can't fault that at all. I think, and part of the reason why I make a case for triple threat is I think that 6-1 may come up a little bit because I think Pizza Man's 10-1 may come down. I see them both being around the 8-1. And at 8-1, I don't mind.
They're both playable at 8-1, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Although I think if I'm going to get 8-1, I think I'll get more than 8-1 and up with the birds. And I really think if I had to pick a most likely winner, you probably go with him or the Chad. We haven't talked about Chad Brown horses, but they're going to be favorites and they fit.
Right.
Slumber is 6-1 on PH right now, and at 6-1, I'm he would be a use for me. He's got a big shot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both in the Big Blue Kitten. I mean, the thing I like about Slumber is I like Irad Ortiz. I just think he's a great rider, and he and Chad Brown just seem to win every time they get together.
This is one hell of an Arlington Million. I mean, 13 horses. I don't remember one being as exciting as this.
Yeah, they did a good job recruiting for this because 13 horse field. You just don't see that very often in any graded 1 races in the U.S. It seems like on the turf you end up getting smaller fields in those bigger, the grade 1s. So.
And imagine we almost had California Chrome in this one too.
Yeah. Too bad I would have been betting against him. I wish he was in here. That would have created some more value.
Sure,
sweet.
Sure, but who knows what kind of? I mean, he would take money on name alone. But I think there's so many horse players that are thinking like you. I just wonder what kind of price he would be.
That would definitely have made more buzz for the race. So.
Right, for sure. All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. We've had a fantastic podcast. I think it may have even run a little long. I haven't even dared look at the clock, but. I
it was
hope
great being on. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's my first time live. I think I've been recorded a few times. I mean, on the video part. So, this is really fun. We got to do this more often.
Now we hopefully some of the horses that we picked Come in.
Yes,
Right,
that would make it even
exactly.
better.
Exactly.
Because I'll be betting them.
And
so.
if they do, I will be sure to tweet it. I'll be like, I finally picked a winner on the podcast.
Break your podcast maiden. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Good luck.
All right,
Best
bye,
of luck
Mike.
this
Thank you.
weekend, and always. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.